CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood is following the latest from Washington. Kylie, thanks for joining us. We have now heard President Trump's military plan for Afghanistan. And as we mentioned, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's comments, we mentioned them, his comments on the situation a little bit earlier. What are the big diplomatic peace goals that he may be pushing for on the sidelines, on the side of the president's rhetoric?
Yeah, so Tillerson came to the State Department briefing room for only the second time yesterday and clearly felt that he had a role to play in describing some more details in regards to the administration's strategy on Afghanistan. And he spoke in three specific areas. He spoke about the Taliban, he spoke about regional partners, and he touched on military decisions. So in terms of the Taliban, Tillerson said that there are moderate elements of the Taliban that the U.S. thinks that could be worked with in an effort to establish a way forward. And he encouraged the Afghans to sit down at the table with the Taliban and come to some sort of conversation about the way forward. And we've heard that from the previous administration, but what's different here is that the Trump administration is saying that there are no strings attached to those conversations. There shouldn't be any preconditions for those conversations, which means that the previous administration who said that the Taliban needs to accept the Afghan constitution and that they need to accept the rights of women, that's no longer something that is a precondition for conversation. Also, in terms of the Taliban, he said that, they need to recognize that battlefield victories are not going to be had by them. But Tillerson also said that the U.S. isn't necessarily going to be having these battlefield victories either.
The U.S. is not going to be having these battlefield victories. In other words, what the secretary seems to be suggesting is that the United States may not win, but that the Taliban perhaps might not win either. And what's surprising about that is that it was the Taliban that ultimately allowed Osama bin Laden to set up his camp in the region, and ultimately we know what led how that ended up. So are they suggesting that they would agree that the Taliban stay at some level of power within Afghanistan?
Well, they're not going that far yet. Basically, what they're saying is that the Taliban need to be a part of the conversation if Afghanistan is going to establish a way forward. And so they're not saying that, the Taliban should be in power or anything, but Tillerson did say that the Afghans need to decide what form of government they want to have going forward. And again, he reiterated that the U.S. isn't going to push any sort of preconceived notions about democracy or requirements on the government as they establish a peaceful way forward. And Tillerson also said that an important piece to this whole puzzle is pulling in regional partners. And he came down pretty harshly on Pakistan and said that over the past few years, the trust between the U.S. and Pakistan has eroded because they've been harboring terrorists. And he said that now the U.S. is going to start conditioning their support for Pakistan on the success, on the progress that they are able to help establish in the area.
Kylie, we also want to ask you about Tillerson's comments on North Korea, applauding Pyongyang's restraint that they did not follow through with their threat to launch missiles toward Guam. But what happens now? How do we ensure peace?
Right. So this was the first time that the secretary has had anything positive to say about North Korea. And he said that he was pleased that since the UN Security Council resolution earlier this month that North Korea hasn't launched any missiles and that they haven't been provocative in any way. And he said that he hopes that this is a signal, a first signal, that there could be some decreased action from North Korea, a halt to their missile launches, a halt to their nuclear program that would provide a way forward for potential U.S.-North Korea talks. And Tillerson has consistently said that that is the way forward here. But last week, when Tillerson was in the Philippines, he sat down with reporters and he reiterated that. He said that the way forward is talks, but the U.S. needs to see North Korea halt their program. And that's what's going on right now. But the question is, how long does North Korea have to halt their missile launches for in order to provide enough time that the U.S. sees an opening for these talks to happen. And so we still don't know how long this kind of halt or pause needs to last in order to lead to conversations that would then try and establish a way forward, try and denuclearize North Korea.
All right, Kylie Atwood breaking it down for us. Thank you, Kylie.
Thanks, Vlad.